Hey guys, and welcome back to the show. I am your host, Megan Hardy, and I am the founder of Fitness Uncharted, which is a fitness and nutrition coaching company that I designed to help women build muscle, lose fat, and improve your metabolism so that you can feel healthy and confident in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. And today we are talking about consistency. What's the C word? Not the four-letter C word, you guys. Sorry, I don't know why I went there. Consistency, that's the C word. Consistency is key. We have probably heard that before. If you are on your fitness journey, on any journey, you've probably heard consistency is key. But how do we do that, right? It's a really simple concept, which makes it challenging in a way. And I'm sure you can probably that probably resonates with you. Like that's one thing I hear the most with talking with any of my clients or any women in our free Facebook group, anyone that I'm talking with. Like one of the biggest quote unquote challenges is consistency. They're like, I'm just lacking consistency, or it's either that or willpower. Those are the two that I often hear. And I know for myself personally, I've struggled with consistency in different areas of my life. So let's talk about it. I want to give you just kind of another tool in your toolbox for how to view consistency to maybe help you stay more consistent. So that's what this episode will be about. And trying to, really simplify consistency and also take out the overwhelm because the simplicity of the concept of consistency is what overwhelms people. It's like because it is so simple and people are like, I still don't know how to do it though. I still don't know how to be more consistent. It's so simple, but it's not easy, right? To be consistent. So I want to give you some more tools today. And I actually can't take credit for some of this because I actually recently listened to a podcast by John Maxwell. It's called the Leadership Podcast by John Maxwell. I think it's actually Maxwell Leadership Podcast. Anyway, go give that a listen if you are a leader in any space, whether that's in your family, in business, in life, in your fitness, whatever. If you want to be a leader, if you want good communication skills, things like that, go give that podcast a listen. I do not get any kickbacks. I just love the podcast. So why benefit just me personally when I can share it with you guys too? So this actually was from an episode that I listened to of John Maxwell's recently, and it really inspired me. It really helped clarify the consistency concept. So that's why I want to share it with you guys. Also, say a quick prayer for me that Oreo doesn't start barking her head off while I'm recording. She's laying in the room on a couch right now in the room that I'm recording. And I always do this. I'm like, "Oh, she looks so cute. I don't wanna move her. She'll be fine. She'll be fine while I record a quick podcast episode." And then, of course, she starts barking her freaking head off, at whatever person walking down the road or mailman, whatever. So, Amazon delivery driver, oh my gosh, that's the worst because especially if they knock on the door. Good Lord. But also, you guys, really exciting news. We just got a new puppy named Rolo. He's a mini Bernedoodle. Oreo is our first baby. She is like 2.5, almost 3 years old. She's a sheepadoodle. So that's half English sheepdog, half poodle. And she is high energy, high energy. So we were like, let's get her a playmate. Yeah. It's still a good decision. It's already a great decision, but we've only had him for a day or two now at this point that I'm recording, which by the time this episode releases, it'll probably be like, oh gosh, probably a month or two out. But anyway, he is the cutest thing ever. His name is Rolo, and he is a mini Bernedoodle, which is a Bernese mountain dog and half poodle. And oh my gosh, guys, he's so cute. Oh my gosh. If you want to see what he looks like, just go to any of my social media pages because I'm going to like bombard everyone with puppy photos. So, and the two of them together literally melts my heart. It is so cute. But anyway, say a prayer for Oreo as well because she has major only child syndrome and is so jealous of him, especially around her mama, aka me. She's very protective of me in the sense that she wants all of my affection and does not want him to get it. So we're gonna have to work through that. Oreo, we're gonna have to work through that with you. Anyway, I'm gonna roll through this. Hopefully the dogs don't go off all of a sudden, but if they do, that's life. So let's jump on in. So let's talk about consistency and how consistency compounds. So you might have heard, like with money or finances, how money compounds, like compounding interest. So you put your money into a savings account or like, stocks or bonds, things like that. And your money earns interest, and that money compounds on itself. So the more you put money in, then you make money on that money, and then it makes money on that money, and it's compounding, right? So it's like this snowball effect of all of a sudden you've created this momentum with your money because it's building upon itself, right? So you might have heard of compounding interest when it comes to finances, but also consistency compounds, which is the coolest thing. There's actually a ton of correlation between your finances and financial health and your physical health. Like if you think of any financial tool or strategy, there's probably a physical fitness application too, which is really cool. And Coach Christy is actually the best with analogies. She has a ton of analogies all the time, one of our coaches on the Fit You. And she loves talking about how, investing into your physical health is just like a financial investment. The more you invest into your physical health, the more that's going to compound. And it's kind of like the flywheel effect. Like that's a business concept that describes how small wins build on each other over time, creating momentum that then leads to growth. So the flywheel effect, it's similar, is similar to the momentum created by a flywheel, like on a rowing machine. So think, how it's harder to get the thing started, right? When you're on a rowing machine, it's harder to get it started. But once you create momentum, it actually becomes easier. It becomes easier and smoother once you actually get started and start building momentum upon itself, right? So it's kind of like the flywheel effect, and people use that as a business concept. The more growth that's happening, the more, client fulfillment you're having, and better results, and people, happy customers, and more better team members, and all these things, right? They're compounding, and it's going to actually make growing that business easier, right? So same thing with your fitness. Like it's like the flywheel effect of your health. And the more that you're consistent, the more that's going to compound and actually gets easier. It is the hardest thing when you're first starting to be consistent with something. But once you actually become more consistent, it becomes easier to be consistent. So it's a beautiful thing. But let's talk about first how we get to consistency, okay? So this comes again straight from John Maxwell. I was very inspired by it, so I'm going to give you my own fitness twist on it. But he gives an example of chopping down a tree. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example as kind of a parallel to fitness with chopping down a tree. Okay, so you have 5 steps that you have to do in order to be consistent. You need to do these 5 things. All right. Step number 1 is we need to know what we want to accomplish, AKA, what is the goal? If you've ever been on a call with me before, I'm asking you all about your goals. What is your goal? I need to know. Like you need to know, because if we don't know what the goal is, we don't know what we're working towards, right? Like when people are really ambiguous with their goals, I'm like, I don't think I can help you because you don't know what your goal is. So I don't know what your goal is. So I don't know, right? We need to know what we want to accomplish, i.e. in the chopping down a tree example, it's chopping down a tree. That's your goal, right? So that's a very clear goal. I want to chop down this tree. So that's step number 1 is know what you want to accomplish. And if your goal is like, kind of like get more fit or get more healthy, what does that mean? What does that mean? Like, does that mean for some people that might mean gaining weight? For some people that's losing weight. For some people that's body recomposition. And then also dig deeper than that too. Like I always want to know the why. I want to know the emotional driver for you. What's the emotional driver, the emotional investment? Why is that actually important to you? So get specific with that goal, because the more specific you are with what you want to accomplish, the easier it's going to be too, right? To accomplish it. Because that's going to set the stage and set the tone for the next steps. Okay. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is you need to have the right tools. If you don't have the right tools, you're not going to be able to chop down your tree, right? So you don't want to go trying to chop down a tree with a baseball bat or with like a toothpick, right? That's not going to work. You need an axe or a chainsaw, if you're extra on top of it. But let's go with the axe example, right? So you need an axe, or in regards to your health and fitness, you need to know what you want to accomplish, and then you need to have the right tools, which could look like maybe the right nutrition plan, the right training programming, the right amount of recovery, the right, support. Maybe that's coaching or mentorship. Especially if you're someone who struggles with accountability, maybe coaching or mentorship. That's literally why I have a job and why I do one-on-one coaching, is because people need accountability for consistency. I need accountability for consistency. I personally work with coaches myself. Coaches need coaches, right? So maybe that's a part of the tools in your toolbox. Maybe that's a tool you need to invest in and look into, right? Or a gym membership. That's another tool. You need to create or find the tools that are going to help you achieve the results, right? So, nutrition plan, training programming, the gym membership, the meal prep containers, whatever, right? Go get your tools. And then with your axe, that's going to help you chop down your tree because you have the right tool. If you don't have the right tools, like if you're doing some, restrictive diet that's not sustainable long term, that's not the right tool. Or if you're doing some stupid detox that claims to lose 10 pounds in 10 days, not the right tool, because you're not actually going to get long term results from that. Like, those are tools, but they're not the right tools. So you need to go find the right tools for you. That's step 2. Step 3 is you have to actually take action on those tools. You have to use the tools, i.e., with the axe example, you have to actually pick up the axe, or, you have to actually go to the gym, right? Like, if you go to the tree to chop down a tree with your axe, and you go there with your axe in hand, and then you go and you sit by the tree, is that tree ever going to get chopped down? No, it's not. You have to use the tools. So I love this. Actually, I just released recently an interview with a client who just graduated our year-long program, and she said herself, she was like, no matter what program you do, she said, I highly recommend this program with the Fit You, but no matter what program you join, you have to do the work. She said, if my coach Christy, she was working with our coach Christy, she was like, if Coach Christy had given me the perfect plan and the perfect tools, but I did not use the tools that she gave me, I would not have gotten results. And I loved that she said that. I was like, yes, this is just real life feedback. And that's why she got amazing results, because she took action and she used the tools. So you have to take action, even if that is 5 chops at your tree every day, just 5. You don't have to chop down the whole tree. Just take 5 chops at the tree every day. Just take action. Okay. That's a part of the consistency piece. You have to actually go to the gym. The gym membership does you zero good if you don't go to the gym, right? You have to actually eat the food that you meal prepped. I know we don't always want it. It doesn't always sound the best. Sometimes you're eating for a purpose. That's another Coach Christie quote. You're eating for a purpose sometimes. Like the other night, I literally just had ground turkey that I had cooked on the stove and rice. And I was going to make like a more yummy dinner with some more flavor and stuff like that. But I was so tired and I was like, I just don't feel like making anything. I already have some rice and some turkey on hand. I literally, you guys, put rice, ground turkey, and some salsa in a bowl and called that a meal, because it was easy. I knew it hit my macros and my goals, and I was eating for a purpose. I wasn't eating, it was not a social event. It was not eating for pleasure. I do that as well, but like sometimes you're doing things for a purpose, right? And so like when you meal prep the food, if you don't actually eat the food, well, so what that you meal prepped it? It don't matter. If you're like, "Oh, it's fine. I'll go like out with my girlfriends and get lunch and whatever." No, like you can also find balance where maybe you do plan for those days. That's great. Plan for it though. And then you don't have to even feel guilty about doing it if you're having, a meal out with your girlfriend every now and again. But then you can also even bring your food. So be like, hey, let's do a picnic. Let's go to a nearby picnic table. You can grab whatever food you want from McDonald's or Wendy's or Chipotle or whatever. I've got my food and let's sit and eat together. Right. So, like, anyway, I go off on a tangent there, but you have to eat the food, right? And you have to take action and do the things, because the best plan in the world only works if you work it. So that's number 3, is take action. Number 4 is to stay focused, i.e., I could probably stay more focused right now and not go off on all my tangents, but that's, what I do. But stay focused. So just think about the tree chopping analogy. You need to go and chop at the same tree every day. Let's say you're just taking 5 swings at the tree every day. If you're doing that every day, it is inevitable that the tree is going to fall down. That is a fact. If you go and chop at the same place every day, 5 times a day, it will fall down. But it won't fall down if you go and you chop at different trees every day, right? If you go and you just do 5 chops a day, but you do 5 chops on one tree this day, 5 chops on a different tree another day, chops on the next tree another day, then it's not going to work if you're doing different trees, if you're not staying focused on the tree that you're trying to cut down. And this applies with your health and fitness when you're continually hopping from diet to diet and you're not staying focused. You're like, you have massive shiny object syndrome, right? Which just means like the next new trend or the next shiny object, you're just like chasing after, right? Or you're taking advice from every single person that you hear on social media and every single friend chirping in your ear about this or that diet that worked for them or didn't work for them and why what you're doing isn't going to work, blah, 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 blah. You got to reduce the noise, guys. Stay focused. Stay focused on the things, the principles that you know to be true, the things that you know to work. And also, if you're working with a coach, do what your coach is telling you to do and stay focused on the goal at hand, right? And don't give in to the shiny object syndrome or quit when things get hard or boring. That is something I try to be like a little bit of a genie in a bottle with my clients when they first get signed up because they're so excited. They just invested into themselves. They know they're going to get the accountability and support that they need. And they're excited to start something new and they're excited to achieve and go after their goals, all these things. And I tell them, I try to forewarn as many people as I remember to is, hey, in about 4 to 6 weeks, give it like a month or 2 months, you're not going to want to do this anymore. I'm just telling you straight up. You're not going to want to because it's going to get boring. Things are going to get hard. You're going to lose the shiny object syndrome. It no longer has the allure of being something new. And you're going to have to stay consistent through that. So I want to go ahead and tell you that. So when it comes to that point and you're like, oh man, life is really lifing right now. Things are hard. And also, this is no longer new. It's kind of boring because it's just the newness has worn off. But shoot, Megan told me that was going to happen. And all right, okay, she told me this was going to happen. So I'm going to stay focused. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. And I'm going to ride this out. And I'm going to create that momentum for myself. Okay. So you have to stay focused. Keep chopping down that one tree. Okay. And tip number 5 is if we continually stay consistent, we will be successful in our daily choices. That is a fact. Like it is a fact, a factual fact. If you stay consistent day to day, day in, day out, then you will be successful. It's just a matter of time. It's literally a matter of time, you guys. For example, with the tree chopping analogy, if you go out there and you chop your tree 5 times a day, every day, right? 5 times versus if you're going out there and you chop, let's say 50 times once every month. Okay. You're like, all right, I'm really into this. I really want to get this tree chopped down. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to chop, 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 chop 50 times and you wear yourself out. That's kind of the same thing as going gung ho on your health and fitness for a week or 2 weeks and then tapping out because you can't go at that pace any longer. That's what so many people do. They do something super extreme, they go all in, and then they give up because it was too hard. And then they're like, "Oh my gosh, I couldn't stay consistent." No, you were doing something that isn't realistic to be consistent. But it is realistic to chop a tree 5 times a day, just 5 times. Or let's say hitting a rock with a sledgehammer 5 times every day. It may take 800, 900, 1,000 hits before that rock breaks or before that tree falls down. And you might think, oh my gosh, I'm not even successful. Like it's doing nothing. Like, especially to take the rock hitting analogy. Like if you're hitting a rock over and over, you might not even see any wood chipping off or anything happening. You're just like, shoot, nothing's happening here. I'm trying to be consistent. I am being consistent. Nothing's happening and I'm not successful yet. But picking up the sledgehammer and every day hitting the rock 5 times every day, that is a success before the rock even breaks. You're literally successful. You just don't see the fruit of it yet, but it is successful. It's the same thing as the ice cube analogy that my coach, one of our Fit You coaches, Coach Jen, she loves to share this analogy of an ice cube. So let's say like you're trying to melt an ice cube and you are turning up the temperature. It's like below freezing, right? So the ice cube is frozen and you're turning up the temperature slowly, but your temperature is still below freezing, right? So the ice cube still hasn't melted yet. And you're like, oh, I'm making no progress. Like, why is my ice cube not melting? And so you stop. Well, you just had to keep going because you were actually increasing the heat, increasing the temperature. It just wasn't to the melting point yet, but you will get there if you keep increasing the temperature, right? The ice will eventually melt. You just can't quite see the progress yet. It is the same thing with consistency and with your habits and those things that you can do day in and day out. Just because you don't see the results yet doesn't mean you aren't successful, and just look at it as yet. You haven't, achieved the body recomposition you want to see yet. You haven't achieved the financial goal yet, right? You stay consistent and it will happen. There goes Oreo. Ugh, Lord, I knew it was going to happen. I don't know if you can hear her, but anyway. So stay consistent and hit the rock every day. And that is a success before the rock even breaks. Like the simplicity again of the concept of consistency is what overwhelms people. So don't let that concept become overwhelming. Like actually simplify it. We get a complexity bias where we think, oh my gosh, I'm just this special unicorn and things just don't work for me. Or like, I'm just like, I must be different from everyone else. Like, I don't know what worked for them doesn't work for me. And really, it's probably that we just haven't been consistent long enough. Like, it may not even be your metabolism, it may not even be whatever XYZ thing that you think it is, your hormones or your gut or whatever. Like, you might just not be being consistent with the basics long enough. And when we talk about consistency, it's looking at what things can you do every day. Yes, I said every day, even holidays. Yes, even on your birthday. Yes, every day. What are those things that you are going to stick to day in and day out and you're not going to make excuses for? And things that are actually really realistic and sustainable, like drinking your water, like getting your steps in, practicing gratitude, like having 5 minutes of, you time in the morning, or 5 minutes of breathing, like getting 7+ hours of sleep, moving your body every day, eating 80 to 90% nutritious, nutrient dense whole foods every day. You can do that every day. Those are things very realistic. Like even when I'm traveling or it's my birthday or whatever, I can drink my water. It might be harder when I'm traveling, but I can still probably do that. And there might be days that I fall off a little bit. There have been days I've been on back-to-back calls and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hardly drank my water today. But I'm consistent 80 to 90% of the time. The majority of the time, I'm super consistent. Same thing with my steps. Traveling, okay, it's going to be harder when you're traveling to hit your steps. Probably you're going to have more time sitting in the car or on an airplane or whatever. But I'm walking around the airport. I'm pacing. I'm from drinking all my water, going to the bathroom more often. I'm waking up earlier so I can get a walk in before my travel day starts. When I reach my destination, I'm getting a walk in before the day is over because it's a priority, and and I'm going to be consistent with those things, and I've made that commitment to myself. So find those things that are actually realistic for you to be consistent with, and then also give yourself grace for the 10% of the time that you just really can't make it happen, because that is also realistic, because that's called life and it's not always going to happen. But the problem is that we try to be too perfect, or we go to extremes, or do, extreme calorie deficits or extremely restrictive diets that are not realistic. And then we quote unquote prove to ourselves that we can't be consistent. And so we affirm this identity of I'm not a consistent person or I can't do this. And it's not true. What you're doing wasn't meant to be long term or not meant to be done consistently for a long time. So it's just not true. We're just overcomplicating it, or we're getting bored of being consistent with the mundane, simple tasks. But it's the boring work that gets results. And actually, one of my business coaches always says, do the boring work. They literally have t-shirts that they got printed that say do the boring work, because they're talking to us as business owners too. Do the boring work that you don't feel like doing. That's what gets results day in and day out. It is not all the flashy stuff, right? That's the day in, day out stuff that may seem boring, but done consistently over time, it gets results and it compounds. It's not hard, but you do have to be consistent. So it's not easy either, because consistency is not always easy, but it's definitely not hard. Things like, as far as business, for example, sending emails or sending messages, answering messages, posting on social media, collaborating, creating content consistently. The magic comes when you're doing those things consistently over time, not posting once in a blue moon, not, responding to messages when you feel like it. That's not going to work. You have to be consistent with that stuff. And it's actually really easy things to do as long as you commit to being consistent with it. Same thing applies to your health and fitness. Like, figure out your goals, find the right tools, take action, stay focused, and do the boring work, i.e., do it consistently. And then sit back and watch the magic happen as it actually becomes easier and easier to be consistent. Just like money compounds and you get compounding interest, your consistency compounds and it becomes a snowball effect where you start picking up momentum and speed and you're rolling down the hill faster and faster with less effort, which is a really beautiful thing. I think so many people are like, oh my gosh, it's just so hard. And it really is. Those first 3 to 6 months tend to be the hardest especially if you're creating and instilling new habits and then also trying to break bad habits as well. But once you get past that hump, there's this actually curve that happens also with your finances as well, where your compounding interest actually increases faster once you get past that curve. So the same thing, if you can just stick it out, really, really focus on being consistent, then you gain momentum. It's not always going to have to be so hard. So to recap, number 1, know what the goal is and get specific. Number 2, find the right tools, not just any tool, the right tools. Number 3, take action. 4, stay focused. And 5, be consistent, AKA do the boring work. And that is how you're going to stay consistent, my friends. It's as simple as that. It's really not simple, but it is. So I hope that helped you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you need any accountability or support, feel free to reach out to me. You can book a call with me through the link in the show notes. We can talk more if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, if you need that accountability. You can also find my free macro guide, which is a DIY do-it-yourself guide, very in-depth. If you want to learn more about nutrition and you want to try to do it on your own, you can download that guide for free. And you can also reach out to me on social media. So if you just have any questions about anything, about the podcast episodes, anything at all, feel free to message me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope Oreo didn't blast your ears off too bad with her barking. I'm going to go give my puppies a little bit of lovin', and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.